I support LGBTQ rights and I support women's rights. And if you look at the comments of Trump, he will agree with the law and how it has come to be in the Supreme Court about marriage equality and about women's rights and trans rights. And this is the big lie, is what is happening with the rise of masculinity in the West and why majority of men supported Trump and why so many women who were mothers of young men in America supported Trump. And it's been documented that these mothers are so concerned about these men, of which I'm one of them, who cannot find a girlfriend, a woman, right? Not because of the way they look or how much money they've got in the bank, right? But because of this agenda that not young women have got, because they've turned the tide already. People like yourself, or maybe on TikTok, but the women who are my age, because I actually did, it partly is my fault. I missed the boat in that I got married, it didn't work out, and so I missed the boat. And then a lot of the time, the women who find me sexually attractive and want to be with me who are my age are married with kids, some grandkids. And so I have inevitably got to step down to women who are younger than me, and the women who are younger than me, who are in society, don't want to agree with my politics. They don't care. A lot of the time, it's not even that they don't care about politics or religion or what's happening. It's because they simply want to, like a lot of my friends, just get on with their life, just do the four things in life, get a job, get married, have a kid, get a house. But the problem is that the women who have done that in my friendship circle are unaware of what's happening in America and why it's happening in the UK, but it isn't even documented properly. So if you watch CNN, you listen to Professor, oh, what's his name? His name is Professor Galloway, right? You can find out, right? He's been saying for a number of years that the men's wages, right, the average male wages have not risen since the 70s. Men, so what they say is that mothers, it's not just men that are voting for Trump and for God and Christianity, it's conservative women who are mothers of these men, because these young men, and I'm not a young man, I'm 45, right? Like I say, I missed the boat with my marriage, but it's so difficult for these women because their daughters are at Penn State or Harvard, and their sons who, and the stereotype is so bad. Even ChatGPT says it, right? If you type in like incels and all this sort of stuff, right? I'm not an incel. I have sex with women. I've been successful with women, right? But these men are so misunderstood. Why are they playing video games? Why have they got no job? And ChatGPT is like, well, it's because of technology and because they're weak and all this sort of stuff, right? And I asked it, right, I asked ChatGPT, I said, who are your references? Are they all women? And it said yes. So if you look at the debate, it's so shallow, it's unreal. So to bring it all to head, right, because I'm never going to answer this debate within the male sex, female domain. The battle of the sex has been going on for thousands of years, so I'm not going to sway anyone with my opinion. But what I will say is that King David was not a masculine hero, right? And Ben David, who I believe I am, is not a masculine hero. Harry Potter is not a masculine hero. Clark Kent is not a masculine hero. Flash Gordon in the new one is a completely pathetic character of masculinity. So is Joker. Loki is not a masculine character. And the reason why is so bizarre is that I've studied psychology, right? I'm not going to brag about it, right? But I have a master's in psychology from a very good uni in Nottingham, right? I don't have a PhD, but I was admitted to do a PhD. And I know, I know for a fact that the misunderstanding of men comes down to this masculinity, femininity debate, right? How can a feminine man turn me on in the bedroom, right? Or in life? How can, and throughout history, the biggest womanizers were feminine men who were poets like Byron, who were unattractive men but were beautiful. Like Byron had a club foot, right? And what it is, right, is that they weren't just feminine in that they wrote poetry and stuff, but they were romantic and they gave flowers and they believed in all sorts of things and they went around the world and they loved the arts and things and it became unpopular. Poetry has never been more unpopular now in human history. And even to the point where people are going on from there, right? This lady said, right, Trump, the woman who was talking, another woman who was talking on CNN, right? Trump wears more makeup than Kamala. You know, he's not a masculine man. And it's like anyone with any sort of education can understand. Have you never seen Billy Joe, right? And how many women he gets? You see, it's weird because Billy Joe probably, he's got a wife, but he's like Loki, isn't he? He is a punk rocker like me, right? But I'm not really a punk rocker in the fact that he's a multi-million, one of the biggest selling artists of all time. He's literally the real deal in terms of music, right? But he's he's a punk rocker. He's a revolutionary. He's a Christian, right? But he lost his dad early on. That's a big problem, right? He lost his role model, just like Loki. Like he didn't have a proper role model in Odin, right? You know, Odin was his adopted father. And the thing is that it's so important, the male role model in life, because when we have progressivism and wokeism that actively says that women are the victims, and then you look at the statistics and you see the shift, and you see that 35-year-old men and men like myself have no female contact and they are not getting on in society. And not only that, they are racially discriminated against and women are violent to them. And it doesn't mean that the people listening and women under 25 and stuff are like that at all. They want strong men, sexually attractive men, men who are cool and calm, presentable, and that's me, right? But oh my lord, I can't tell you the amount of times I've messaged a woman or whatever that, right? And she's literally said, I'm gonna call the police on you, or something like that. Or I've been in town and the first thing is like, I'm LGBT, do you agree? It doesn't mean I'm not gonna sleep with men, I do, but do you agree with this agenda? If not, no, I don't even want to talk to you. And they won't even look at you in the eyes, right? And it's always been the case in Nottingham that women actually, there's a lot of women are tall. I'm 6 foot, taller and bigger than me. It's just obviously a majority not like that, but it's always been a fighting town, right? It's famous for Carl Frock, right? It's famous for fighting. It's famous for that. But it's always, and then it shifted right towards the left. A lot of it. Um, it used to be a very violent town, and it's still got elements of it. But in the last couple of years, it's shifted so much with the left and Kamala and the rise of Rishi Sunak being in power and people shifting towards the debate towards Palestine, that it's got to the point now where I can see I'm getting so much respect from younger women and older women because they understand my identity, being a man of color, but they always assume, unfortunately, that either I'm white now because I'm not as dark as I used to be, but I am still brown. I am brown, olive coloured, right? They assume I'm white, or that I'm a Muslim, and both of them are wrong, right? I've even had so it's so weird in that I am a minority of people in the whole world. Really, there's probably only about you know there's probably no one in the entire country that's like me. And I'll tell you that, so I am a unique person in that respect. But Ben David is called the feminine messiah. And he is called the moon, right? That's why you see the moon in Joker, with Joker dancing with Harley Quinn on the rooftop, which is where he found. Look, let's just get it out of the way, right? David was one of the most sexually active men of all time, and his son was literally the most sexually active king of all time, apart from Genghis Khan and his son, right? Like, it's just documented that he was. Now, I mean, the Song of Solomon, which is supposedly about either Solomon or Ben David, right? In the future, it's symbolic. It is. I think it's Solomon, right? I might actually know that. I don't know everything in the Bible. The fact is that that is pornographic. It's the most pornographic book in the Bible, and if you read it, it is basically pornographic. It does. I'm not saying that it's unholy because it's definitely holy. I mean, the whole point of the Bible is sex. If you don't understand that the Garden of Eden's about sex, then you've really, really missed the debate. So, obviously, sex and marriage, and that's what it's about. Sex. Porn is sex without marriage, right? And that's why so many men are lost, because it's sex without marriage and it's not even real. Now, the debate within masculinity and femininity is so shallow on the left that that's why I'm doing this talk, right? Because if you think that if you wear makeup and you're on the left, and I don't wear it, right? But Billy Joe, just about everyone in the music industry has worn makeup. The Cure and the Manics, they're all womanizers, right? A lot of these people. David Bowie was obviously metrosexual, but he had a wife, and I don't need to say that during ancient time, not very ancient, but like French and like Louis the Fifth and everything, they all wore makeup, and it's ridiculous. Like even during Elizabethan times, and not only that, it's like on CNN was like, you know, they're into cars and all this Joe Rogan and all the podcasts, and it's hyping muscles and stuff like that's not what being a man is. That's not what masculinity is, right? Masculinity is natural, right? Let's just talk about natural psychology, right? You can be a man and have a feminine brain. That's a scientific fact, right? Well, it's a psychological fact. You can be a woman and have a masculine brain. This is the reason why we have different male and female sexualities in the first place, right? It's just a fact. Everyone who's young will know this because the majority of young women have studied psychology like me. They're actually higher than me and they've got PhDs or whatever, right? I've done a master's, but I only did a certain strain of section of psychology, you know. A lot of my friends have studied more. So women are natural psychologists for a start. They are natural. And it's evolutionarily posited that women have to be, because you have to bring up a boy and a girl. In order to bring up a boy, you have to be able to think like a boy. And women naturally know what boys are thinking about, right? They know they're looking at breasts and vaginas, and they know how boys' sense of humours are, and they know what girls are because they are were a girl. But men are not like that. Men know what men are thinking, but they rarely know, unless you're very gifted with women, what women are thinking. It's a mystery to men, right? But women know exactly what you're thinking, more or less, just by looking at your facial expression, reading about men. And women are naturally gifted at knowing everything sexual about a man and a boy. How else can you be a good mother without having that women's intuition? It's not really, rocket science, right? A feminine woman is not the same as a masculine woman. It doesn't mean they're not straight, and it's the same for men. And the thing is, right, is it comes down to this fight mechanism that people find amazing on YouTube or in life, right? Even when I was a kid, right, the biggest entertainment we had, right, without the internet was a fight between a teacher or a child or someone in society, right? If you watch a fight, it was just pleasing, right? It's like it gets all your aggression out, all the frustration. It doesn't mean it's good, but it still goes on, right? A big fight between Kamala and Trump, right? It wasn't a literal fight, but UFC, the racers, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, who's going to win, black or white, even though that was probably rigged? Who's the hardest? Is it Wilder or Tyson Fury? Who's the best fighter ever? Is it the Slavic Usyk or is it Fury? Who's the greatest of all time? Who's the GOAT? And women are not so obsessed by who's the hardest man or whatever. But society has geared it that way because even if it's not a fight, a literal fight, it's a psychological, spiritual, mental fight, always in society, because we live in a hierarchical society, right? We live in a pyramidal, hierarchical society like our ancestors, the apes, right? And we just do. And there are matriarchal societies in apes like bonobos, but mammals are shifting towards this debate, mammals as in us humans, why are we against Judeo-Christian values? And then it turns out, and I myself, I'm learning, it's like, you know, listening to my talks and looking at my videos, you can see I'm not Jordan Peterson. I'm not a great orator, right? Jordan Peterson talks about how there is no such thing as the patriarchy, right? And it threw me. I'm like, all my life, I'm like Spice Girls, veering towards this feminine debate. And there's nothing wrong with the Spice Girls. Everyone likes the Spice Girls, they're sexual and they're good at their music, right? There's only a problem if someone's like a terrible woke artist and they're terrible and all they do is just bang on about women's rights or whatever, and they don't include men in any way. That's bad music for anyone, right? And that's why the Beatles were great, because it wasn't just for men; it was for women as well. Now, no one would ever say that King David wasn't the toughest kid around, because he clearly was, literally was a kid, right? And his dad, symbolic of what was going off in with Adam, right, didn't think he was man enough. He was embarrassed by him so much, right, that when um, Samuel went to his house, Jesse's house, right, he didn't even admit he was his father, right? And he was disabled, right? Mentally disabled, right? And that's one of the reasons why. And the Jews say it's also because he wasn't said to be an illegitimate child, right? But he wasn't. His father simply thought he wasn't his child, which is just like with Odin and Loki, right? In that he was adopted. But in the Jewish scriptures, you'll read that his mother did, in fact, state always that it was, in fact, it was. Um, Jesse was the father, but all the siblings thought he was an idiot and a weak man. And then God said, and we all know this story, right? He knocked out Goliath with his mental strength, not his physical strength. Let's get that straight. That's why Ben David is not a physical fighter, he is a mental fighter. So he did it because he could, in fact, wrestle lions. And there were lions in the Middle East that they've died out now. Apparently, he could wrestle them. Right? I don't know if you've ever seen Mike Tyson or Jake Paul wrestle a lion, right? But there are people in India, in the Middle East, and whatever, who can do these things, right? Who can wrestle a lion or tame a snake. Just we've all seen these videos, right? These incredible videos of people putting their hands in alligators and stuff, right? And that's what he was like. Now, even though, and let's get this straight, right? The Jews in Israel believe he was a white-skinned boy with red hair, and Bathsheba was a white-skinned woman with red hair who was so attractive, right? Naked, because she was washing herself naked on the roof, right? That he just had to have her, right? That doesn't sound to me like a weak man. But no one ever thinks he is. People are actually afraid of him, right? People are afraid of him. People are afraid of my name, David. In fact, if I say my name to some people in where I live, right, they actually start to hate me because they know of the power of King David, right? And all my life, it actually got me girls growing up like, you're David and Goliath, it was. And then just recently with the attacks on October the 7th and stuff, and just recently before it's become a hate word, David. And so, and obviously it fell out of favour because other names took over and being popular. But the reason why it's a weird debate is that feminine men who are probably a lot of these men who are single are actually the most sexual men, right? They're actually the most sexual men in terms of history. If you just look at history, right? These men, like Billy Joe, punk rockers, poets, whatever, they are the most sexually promiscuous men. They've had a lot of. They're not like you would say Joe Rogan or many of the people like Andrew Tate who are masculine men. But is Andrew Tate masculine, or is he just so intelligent that he knows about fighting and has built himself up to be a masculine and a feminine man? Because that's the thing about David, is that he was a lover and a fighter. He is known throughout the Bible as being an iron fist in a velvet glove, and that's a symbol of masculine and femininity. So what it is, right, is that women are naturally able to be at will, masculine or feminine, at any point during their thinking ability. Whereas men, who are boys to begin with, have to go on a journey that goes from usually female thinking because their mum brings them up to then learning how to be a man, masculine, right? Some boys already are naturally boisterous, masculine, and I was like that. I was naturally straight for the girls, naturally. I was the best sportsman in my area, in my county, and one of the best runners in the whole country at my age, right? And the thing is that I lost my dad at a very young age, 19, and there was no internet at the time. There was all this rise of progressivism when I was growing up, right? And I had no family members whatsoever other than my brother, who was a man. And he learnt to grow up. I don't want to talk too much about my brother, right? But he grew up and it was difficult without dad. And my dad died, right? Now, learning how to be a man is not the same as learning how to be a woman. And if you don't understand that, you can just switch off this talk, right? It is totally different. It doesn't mean we're not equal, but one, it's a bit like this. A man has to climb a mountain, right? It's a mountain. A woman has to row the boat, right? Just like in a family, a woman rows the boat, but the man climbs the mountain, just like Zion. Now, like I say, just about every young girl will know exactly what I'm talking about, but older women don't, and especially on the left, and they don't understand it, and they're watching their men die, their young men, and and no one's got an answer, but Trump's got an answer, the Bible's got an answer, right? It doesn't mean that these men are perfect, like Trump, and I'm not a Tate supporter whatsoever. I'm not, I am a supporter of Joe Rogan. I'm not a supporter of people like Alex Jones, who are Russophiles and got racist viewpoints, even though he claims he's not. I don't have those views, and women should not be afraid of masculinity, right? And we have now the rise, and we have for a while. Germaine Greer, obviously one of the most intelligent women of all time, right? Of our times, not of all time, of our times, right? Who wrote The Female Eunuch, said years and years ago that women went too far in their aggressive tactics, and it has got aggressive. And the dating game is so aggressive. It's always been a bad thing, dating game, but my white friends who are handsome like me cannot get a girlfriend. They can't get them. They cannot get them. They've got muscles, they're tall, they're handsome, they've got jobs, they've got money, right? They have sex. You can't find a girlfriend, right? And it's not just me. It's not just me. But all my friends who went to school, they've all got wives, they've got kids, grandkids, right? They've got kids. They all, 100% of them found a wife, and so did I. But it it isn't that they've turned to video games, right? Computer games. And I wouldn't say video games, PlayStation. It's not turned to PlayStation. and staying in because they're weak, right? They don't veer towards politics because they don't like religion, because they don't like sex, because they don't know what's going on. But it's true, there is. That's why the Bible starts with the Garden of Eden. That's why it ends with a resurrected Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, right? That's what it's all about, is that this battle of the sexes. There are men like Apollo, right, in all these movies, like with the Princess Diaries, you have a very feminine person, right? And there are all these code words and put downs, right? They say things like M&Ms, right? In the Princess Diaries, you'll see that there's a joke about M&Ms, right? And then when you watch If It Makes You Happy by Sheryl Crow, you'll see her as a Christmas tree in this museum, and she's talking to scrape the mold off your bread, right? And even though, and that's a gay put down, and M&M's is a gay put down, and what it is, right, is that naturally, as you can see in apes as well, you have big silverbacks who obviously get all the women. That's their hierarchy, and then you have other men who are beta, whatever, who are exiled. Some of them are actually exiled by the group, right? And they get no females. And then you have the others who wait for this alpha to get you older or whatever, and then they fight them, and then they become the alpha, right? Now, it's not like that in humans. It's like that if you're a child and you think that humans are like apes in that way. We're not. We are conscious of what we're doing. And we live in, yes, a hierarchical structure. But like Peterson says, it isn't like that in reality, right? We live in an upside down world where everything in psychology is counterintuitive, right? Like I say, most people listening on TikTok will understand this naturally, right? But someone who wants to kill themselves, right, is not a coward. We've just had the suicide debate. So now, all of a sudden, we realise that's not cowardly. It's actually a part of strength. Now, if you understand that, you understand that a man who's manipulated by women, who is seen as weak, or a man who is dominated by women, right, and seen as weak, doesn't necessarily mean that they are not going to be a man at some point, or that they should be written off, right? And so, always within these films, the narrative for humanity is that you'll have a man like Apollo who's got all the charm, the looks, the grace, all the moves, but he's a conniving bastard who even within the Bible doesn't even love. It says he has no love of women, right? And that all he wants is the game. He wants to abuse women, right? And that's what the Antichrist wants to do. He doesn't love women. He hates them. He absolutely hates them, right? It doesn't mean he won't have sex with women. He hates them. It's a totally different thing. And it's all fraud. It's just what every woman knows a fake man. He's fake. And so I just watched a film called King Creole with Elvis Presley. Now, in that is the king, right? Elvis Presley. And it's about the Messiah. In that the Messiah will be Creole. Now, even I had to look it up. I knew that Creole meant skin colour or ethnicity, but what it means is a mixed European and African, or sometimes Caribbean, ancestry. Now, the debate around ethnicity is allowed to happen by God because it is, in fact, relevant and irrelevant at the same time. Because no one in the world now, and when I was growing up, they did believe in white supremacy, right? There are a faction of people who do obviously believe in white supremacy, but even within fascism, they have leaders, and they know for a fact that these leaders were black and that there were Asian people like the Emperor of Japan who were brown, even though they are throughout history they've changed. Japanese were once white, then they're brown, and then they're black, and then they can be. It's a strange one, Japanese and culture, but they used to be termed as white, and then in America they were termed as non-white. So he wrote one of the biggest or most famous books of fascism of all time, The Emperor of Japan, and we all know. I don't want to get into debate about Italians, right? But they're mixed with Middle Eastern peoples, and the debate around ethnicity is relevant within the Messiah because he will be mixed, and King David was mixed. He had part of Ishmael, the progenitor of Islam, within his ethnicity. It's a fact, it's right there in the Bible. One of his ancestors was from Moab, and they were not Christians, they were part of Ishmael. So we can see that he was in fact white, but he had this, and obviously white people do in fact come from the Middle East, from Iran in the Middle East. That's where Caucasians came from, and they're still there. They're still there. But I believe that, and it's in my ancestry, that he was a Celt. And it's very, very, very strange for people in the West who are not Jews to understand that he was in fact a white man and not what we have in our head. But a lot of the films in the UK, we had Richard Gere play King David, and we have Ed Sheeran who plays the Joker in The Joker and the Queen, and he is playing in some of his songs. A lot of the songs are about him, but some of the songs, like with Taylor Swift, are about Loki. They're about King David, right? And when you see David Beckham in, excuse me, in King Arthur, one of the films, what you're seeing is him having the name David mixed in with King Arthur. And you'll see it throughout hundreds of films about King Arthur, is that you'll see that David is mixed in with King Arthur because they know, these writers, and a lot of them, not in the UK but in America, are Jewish. Jewish writers dominate Hollywood, and Christian writers still to this day, and like I say, pagan writers as well, believe in Loki, dominate the movie industry, like Richard Curtis and J.K. Rowling. And I don't think there needs to be said anymore. This debate is current. It's happening now. People in my friendship circle are great people, but they're unaware of this debate about how young men are lost. They need fathers. They need women to stick up for them because there's a big bad beast coming called Apollo, right? And he hates us all. And spiritually, Ben David won't kill him, right? Now, it's so woke at the moment, right? You can't even say you're going to kill the biggest, baddest Hitler of all time, right? But it's a spiritual battle. It's not him that does it, and it's Trump who's in power. Obviously, we know he's in power, and it's not going to be him per se. It's going to be the whole of the world who's good against him and the beast system. You're either on the right or the left. That's what Jesus said. You're either a sheep or a goat. It doesn't mean you can't be a Christian and be on the left, though. That's the thing. That's what some people on Twitter are having a debate on X, right? Or, all you people on the left who believe in the Labour Party or, Kamala, you can't be a Christian. You can't be for Jesus. But it's not true. Because we have a left hand and we have a right hand in Judaism, right? And in Christianity, there's a left hand. And that left hand was Samuel. That left hand was the devil, right? Not Satan, the devil, Loki, Pan. But it wasn't fallen to begin with, right? Samuel's problem was that he would worship humans. That's what his problem was. He didn't understand that God had created humans to be higher than the angels one day, and that they were prophesied to be, but they were to be worshipped, right? Not the other way around. And that was his fall, and he obviously was too proud, and pride is not the same as what women would call confidence. Pride in yourself is not the same as having too much pride in the Bible. And we're figuring out what's true, what's masculine, what's feminine, and unbelievably, who's the toughest man around. And it's Trump. We literally saw him almost get killed 2 times, and he don't care. And Elon Musk don't care. And Rogan don't care. And he's obviously the toughest of them all into physically. And there are people like me, poets, songwriters. I don't care. I don't care about Apollo, right? I'm pretty sure I could knock him out, but it's not a physical battle for Ben David. It's a spiritual one. Trump is literally the one saving America and Israel and the West. Putin is the instigator of bringing it down with part of the Slavic nations and China and Iran. They are literally bringing us down on purpose. Obviously, it's difficult because Iran just wants to bring in their Messiah, who they don't understand is the same as the Jewish one. The Russians want to bring in ultra Christianity and Rome at the same time. And they're caught between what to do. Putin identifies as a Christian and he hates the Nazis in Ukraine. And he hates the New World Order. This is why it's so complicated. This is why Alex Jones is a Russophile, you see, and Greg Reese, because they can see that these people are so Christian, it's unreal. And there's a massive revival going off in Russia, and they're hard as right, and they even though the Ukrainian people seem to be tougher, right? I mean, they're destroying them on the battlefield compared to the power of Russia. But this is not the debate, because that's in the Bible, and we know that Russia is in fact being used by God to bring down the West, and therefore China is too, and Iran is about to be in look, in the Bible, it literally says that there's a he-goat. I mean, you can't make it up, right? Trump is the he-goat, right? And he's going to take out Iran. And it's not because Iran is a good country or that we should love the people of Iran, right? The people of Iran are persecuted by a dictatorial system, and they all want to get out of that system. So Iran will be liberated, right? And that's where the Garden of Eden was, right? In within Iran. So the the good people of Iran want that system to go, and they are at the heart fascists, right? They are fascists. The 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 Jews in Israel keep finding Mein Kampf within these Hamas warriors, right? Houses, they're all fascists, right? They're all reading Mein Kampf to destroy the Jews, and they were there at the very beginning, like I say, of fascism. They were writing these books and learning how to destroy Jews, and Jews don't have a colour. They don't have a colour. They're white, black, and brown people all over the world. Um, and and I just saw, and obviously the Jews, right? They all believe in David, and they all sit there and wail, and we know how geeky some of them look, right? And I just saw a thing on X, and it was like every war, literally every war Israel has fought in the last, since its creation in recreation in the 40s, right? They've won every one, right? And every single one they didn't start. They didn't start any of them, and they won them all. And that's the power of God there, right there. And if you don't believe that some people who fight are supernatural, then you've never watched boxing. You've never watched UFC. Have you never seen a man or a woman? Um, Actually, if you watch the King and Queen of America, like I say, with Euromystics, you'll see a real life black and white image of this man with the biggest uppercut you've ever seen in your life. We've all seen it on UFC, right? A smaller man or whatever taking out a giant, just like David Haye did with IUF. It it is. It's like Tyson Fury who beat Wilder. It is supernatural. Don't you understand that there are supernatural abilities within some men and women? And David had it, and Trump has got one too. And for all the abilities of Apollo, which will take out billions of people, billions. He's already lost the battle, right? Jesus won on the cross, right? And all it is that Satan wants to take out as many people as possible. And you only gonna die twice if you don't believe in Jesus. Right? You'll die once and then you'll get resurrected. If you die twice, you're not coming back. So we need to understand what male and female is, what masculinity and what femininity is, and why psychologically you cannot let a whole generation of men down. Who's gonna look after you when there's no grandkids? Who's gonna pay the taxes? Without children, the Bible says we are dead as a race. And that is what Apollo wants. He wants to take out as many men as possible. Now, as J.K. Rowling understands, they're taking out the women. And that's why the mothers of these men are also upset with the fact that they're being taken out as well. And very, very soon, and the debate is not about gay rights at all. Because Pan was literally where we get pansexuality from. And Persephone was, and always has been, a beacon of lesbianism as well. Right? But these two characters are realigned. a realign. They're not the same gods, right? Persephone, Adam and Eve are dead. David's dead, right? An avatar is not the same as the person they were. They're like Pinocchio. They are a copy. That's what image means, a copy. God made us in his image. We are a copy. We are an image. We are a reincarnation. We are cut from the same cloth. We are the same, though. And that's what's so weird. We are the same. But Jesus has given us the gospel, and we're not. We are realigned. We are now godly. We are now true. We don't give in to that. Pan was never gay in the first place, and nor was Persephone, right? Pan famously would shag anything, right? But it didn't. The Romans were fluid. They didn't even have a concept of straight or gay. They were all gender fluid, sexually fluid. Sorry. So this debate, and this is why everyone's watching Gladiator 2, and I think it's called, on Netflix, They Will Die or whatever. They're all watching Rome and ancient Greece, and and looking at how they were envious in a way, because obviously he doesn't want to have as many women or whatever and orgies as possible. Like, but it doesn't mean that I do. I don't want to have, like I say, Rome. I don't want to have an ultra promiscuous life because I've had it in the past. What I want is one woman to be true, have a family for life, because that's all I've ever dreamed of. And there are millions of men who can't get it. They literally can't get on in life. And Camilla lost the election because of it.